All right. Well, obviously, people aren't here this early on because I always do these spur of the moment. But for those of you that are watching this, maybe in the future after I go live, then I hope that this is. I hope that you're able to offer your prayers because boy, did today was all over the place. There was some good, some bad, some middling. But I am very grateful that I have very good friends, and I don't think I would still be alive right now if it weren't for my friends. So, if you're one of my friends who's watching this, then thank you so much for all of your support and everything you've ever done. Honestly, the worst thing I can say about my friends is that a lot of them are forgetful. But even then, a lot of the ones that were like the most forgetful were they're starting to develop techniques to remember stuff more. So I'm very grateful for that. So I guess we'll start with the good. No, we'll start with the bad because I'm an optimist. And I'm the type of person that likes to think about the plus side to things more than I like to think about the negative. So, on the negative side, I think I've alluded a handful of times on this channel. I hope you'll forgive me for the shaky camera. I'm trying to perch this on a comfortable spot in the basement. So hopefully this is good enough for you. I've alluded to having a bit of a struggle with someone outside the family that's causing my family grief. And to be precise, it's been going on since Good Friday of 2024. And I have only been able to tell 2 people about it. And those 2 people very much could vouch that it's not me being melodramatic. It's very much just kind of like, man, you guys should not have to go through that. That's just brutal. I don't think any of them would I don't think any of them would break that confidence, but just in case you're the type that says like out of sight, out of mind with your emotions, this is one of those situations where inwardly I'm quite a mess. But I'm the type of person that tends to not really express my emotions like super strongly. Like I feel them super strongly inside. But when it comes to actually like getting them out, they tend to be on the mellow side. Like when I heard the news about the latest development, which was not a good development today, my gut reaction was just pure silence. I didn't cry. I didn't punch anything. I think the most I did was maybe like nodded my head and said, So, so I sent a message to one of my friends. I'm still waiting back to hear from her. And then I talked to a few other friends vaguely because I've been told to really be specific about who I talk about this with. But I do feel like this might be a good sign because in my faith, there's a saying that says that God likes to test the faithful with these ordeals to see if they'll remain faithful even during bad times, because it's easy to think that God is the greatest when you're having a good day, but can you thank God even when you're having the worst day of your life? And I personally believe that this is very much a test of faith because everyone in my family has been Catholic since birth. None of my siblings, none of my parents, well, My dad was a convert and my mom was a revert, but all four of us kids were Catholic for our entire lives. And I think if we get through this, I think there's nothing but really good stuff, at least for the foreseeable future. Like, obviously, everyone's day is going to come where we leave the earth, and very few people have the pleasure of a painless death. Technically, the exact moment of death is painless because your brain puts on a bunch of painkillers, but generally speaking, the average population just doesn't have the diet or the exercise to be able to have a perfectly peaceful time. But I'm hoping that by the time this is over, I will have said this was the worst time of my life, and then if anything bad happens, I'll be able to say, oh, this is nothing. So on to the good. The good was that today was the first day where Atlas shared their update for Persona's 30th anniversary. You all know I am a pretty diehard fan of Persona 5 Royal. And when I heard that Fitness Boxing 3 was getting DLC that was based on Persona 5, I had to jump onto it day one. Ooh! Oh, good, Matthew. I'm so glad you like that game. I'm sure you know which position I rank it in if you watch my best games video. Hope you're doing well, Matthew. Anything? How do I word this? What are your early impressions of Donkey Kong Bonanza up to the Lagoon layer? That's where I think I'll draw the line as far as like making sure no one gets spoiled. So, up to the Lagoon layer, what are your thoughts on Donkey Kong Bonanza? And welcome in the other two of you that YouTube says are watching. I wish there was a way that I could acknowledge everyone. I just haven't figured that out yet. If you guys know how to like shout out every single person watching, even if those people aren't commenting, please let me know, because I don't like people feeling left out. I don't like people feeling like I'm not seeing their messages. Sometimes I will want to finish my train of thought before I respond to your messages, but rest assured, I do see them. I very much do see them. I just am the type of person that easily loses my train of thought when I get interrupted. Speaking of which, I forgot what I was saying before Matthew showed up. Let me see if I can remember. Oh, yes. So, Fitness Boxing 3 released DLC for Persona 5. And I downloaded it. I got it for free because I had gift cards from my family that I got for Christmas. And it was okay. They had 5 songs that were all based on Persona 5 and then 3 collaborative t-shirts. The t-shirts were all right. The songs were all covers. And they were all kind of so-so covers. Like, none of them had Lynn's vocals, which, if you know Persona music, you know that the vocals are usually like the highlights of the tracks. And just hearing an instrumental last surprise just does not work, especially when it doesn't even use the original instruments that were used in the main game. But at the same time, I felt like I got a good core workout. Either that or it's the dinner talking, but my core feels really good right now. And I even got all perfects on all the footage that I captured for the review. Speaking of the review, I was going to put it up tonight, but then I thought, you know what? It would probably be scientifically beneficial if I am able to express what's going on. And that reminded me of something else that just happened, but I'll get to that in a minute. Welcome in, Car and you. Yeah, I'm sorry if I butchered that. Do you want to be called Karen or Karen you? Because I'm guessing because the P is capitalized, that's your last name. Welcome in. What are some good things that have been happening to you lately? I was just finished telling everyone else here that I just finished up with the DLC for Fitness Boxing 3 that was based on Persona 5 and have a review coming. I just decided to do this first. So whenever I'm done with this live stream, then expect the review to go up. Because today was the first day of Persona's 30th anniversary. And I wanted to jump in on the bandwagon because I love Persona 5. Well, more specifically, I love Persona 5 Royal. We Switch owners never got the original Persona 5. But I can acknowledge how revolutionary Persona 5 was. In fact, it was so revolutionary that Persona 3 Reload was made with the intent of appealing to the Persona 5 Royal players who are now going back to Persona 3, not wanting all the primitive stuff that Persona 5 Royal got rid of. So I'm very happy about that. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I got a very interesting comment on one of my videos. And I'm not going to name names, and I'm not going to name videos. But let's just say the meme crowd came back, even though I thought I got rid of all that nonsense. And to be fair, this person was, pretty respectful. Asked if I could bring back the memed video. Hopefully I sounded polite, but I said, that thing has given me endless amounts of grief. And, there are other videos about thanking God that you can watch on my channel instead. And the person proceeded to say I'm dropping the correspondence. And I talked to a friend that I know outside of YouTube, and she seems to think that the correspondence in this case responds to this particular comment thread. I initially took it as, oh, you're going to stop talking to me just because one video was taken down when I have like thousands of videos that I've posted since 2016. Ugh. If it turns out that I'm right, then goes to show you that I was probably born in the wrong generation. But if I'm wrong, then I guess I can respect not agreeing with my decision. But at the same time, I feel like the people that do agree with my decision are the people that know me personally, especially the people that know me outside of YouTube. And those people, they know me as a person as opposed to just the Catholic gaming nerd. And I have yet to see someone who has heard my side of the story say like, oh yeah, Paul, you were being an idiot. So maybe I'm just getting biased takes, but I think pretty much all of you can agree that if you're going to ask advice from a stranger on the internet versus your good friends, which advice are you going to take more? So now it's just a matter of seeing if my response after that was the last I'll hear from this person. Because this person did seem very polite, very like, I respect your decision and all that. Which is way better than what I usually get. So, in summary, family situation, not great, but could also be far, far worse. I'm very thankful for as far as we've come. Good news, beat the Persona 5 DLC in Fitness Boxing 3. I did gain weight recently, but one of the guys at the gym seems to think that it's muscle mass and not like, oh, Paul, you're getting fat. So that makes me, I'm not really sure how to feel about that because as you guys know, I'm kind of a bit of a scrawny guy. Not really much of a bodybuilder, never have been. I've been underweight most of my life. I'm pretty sure ever since I was 6. Because I think I remember seeing a video when I was 5 and I looked pretty chubby. But when I pointed that out to my mom, she said, oh, that's just how all 5-year-olds look. It's called baby fat. You grow out of it. So I'll take her word for it. Pretty lanky too. Yeah, bring it on. We Lanksters got to stick together, especially if we have the super long arms and do the bamboo walk. Yep, join the crowd. I have been not only thin my entire life, but I plan on making this a full video. Oh, excuse me. Someone just messaged me on Facebook. I want to make sure that's not important. Okay, cool. Okay. we're good. I plan on eventually making this a video, but I do plan on making a video called Thin People Problems, because I think um, there's this narrative, especially in America, where like thin people don't have any problems. They have it all easy. And it's like, we have our fair share of struggles. How doodly doo are you? I didn't catch the reference, but that's a neat way of saying hi, Jubble. I'm doing mixed. Family situation is a bit rough, and I got a very strange comment on one of my videos, but I also had fun playing the Persona 5 DLC for Fitness Boxing 3. And I got all perfects on the songs that I captured for the footage. So I guess the gym has really helped me to work out. But and how are you, Jevil? Any good news on your end? So getting back to what I was saying. Yeah, one thing that thin people have to deal with is rib pain. Like my ribs are almost always in pain whenever I lean over too much or whenever I like bump into stuff. That was always a struggle whenever I was cleaning the treadmills at my janitor job, was like having to clean like the upper part of the treadmill, but then like my ribs would like press against those handlebars and it would be really painful. Ooh, that's cool that Sonic Crossworlds is on sale. You gonna get it? Well, good. It's good that you don't it's good that you don't have a job that has you bumping your ribs into stuff. Another thing is we get some comments from people, like obviously probably not as bad as the ones that overweight people get, but like I've been told that I was anorexic by quite a few people. And there was one time I was on a mission trip and one of the adult chaperones like deliberately ordered me more junk food when we were at a restaurant because she thought I was underfed. And then like on subsequent mission trips, she would always be like right by me being like, what are you going to eat? Are you going to eat enough? And I'm just like, oh, do you people only think that thinness is a result of not eating? It could also be genetics and metabolism, or it could also be that before I got my first job, I took a walk to the park and back every single day for quite a few years, I'd like to think. The longest I've ever been able to jog is a mile. If you count doing cardio in the gym, the longest I've ever done the bikes is I've done, I think it was like 3.5 to 4 miles. So clearly I do a lot of exercise. I did even less back then. I look healthy. Oh, thank you, Jubble. I appreciate it. My doctor says I'm pretty healthy too. Haven't seen her in a while, but I believe the last time we spoke, she said that she was so impressed by my health that she said, "Man, Paul, I wish more patients could be like you." It definitely is a stereotype. I'm not sure how to classify my diet. I definitely try to like I wouldn't say I'm 100% healthy, because if I was 100% healthy, I'd only drink water, when I very much don't. I do like my fruit juice and my Olipop, which Olipop are actually quite healthy for you. Not as healthy as water, but they're pretty up there with like 100% juice. But I try to like have a balance. So for example, I got some candy and cookies for Christmas. And so I would try to like space them out quite a lot. So for example, I had this huge, well, huge meaning like 6 of them, a 6-pack of shortbread cookies, and I just had 2 a day. By healthy, eat a good amount. Okay. See, the thing about the amount that you eat is really going to be dependent on the person, because from what I've been told by health experts, what constitutes a good amount is when you're full. But that also has a lot of variables, like how fast you eat, how much you're chewing, how big of bites you have. So it really is very hard to say. But I will say that I eat until I'm full when it comes to dinner and usually lunch, and that's usually what works. Lemon chips? Ooh, that sounds really good, Jubble. I might have to try that. Texture. Another thing my family has been trying to get out of is we try to stay away from genetically modified ingredients because we were told that that's like a primary cause of stuff like brain damage. Now, it could just be that my grandma was really fortunate, but she lived to be 89 and she didn't like lose her like mind. She didn't start like going crazy until I think it was like 2 or 3 days before her death because she would do crosswords and Sudoku every single day. She watched Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune every single day. She didn't just sit around and do nothing. She kept herself busy despite not being a gamer. Oh, if you if you think that's interesting, Karinya, however you pronounce it, on my first mission trip, I had dill pickle flavored Pringles. And my youth group leader was kind enough to say, Paul, I highly doubt anyone else in our group is going to want them, but if that's what you want, I will get them for you. Oh, I loved it, Karinya. It was it was basically like eating a dill pickle, but just hard and not wet. Yes, they do have pizza flavor. Those are some of my favorites as well. My favorite flavor of pizza is Hawaiian, which for those of you that don't know, that is ham and pineapple. I had ham and pineapple pizza a couple of days ago, and it was divine. And that's another thing that my mom would always say is she'd say, I'd rather you be full from eating unhealthy stuff than not eat at all just because you're afraid of having something unhealthy. So if there's nothing else to eat except pizza, then I'll try to limit the amount of pizza that I have so that I'm full, but I'm also not being too unhealthy because pizza, like, don't get me wrong, it's my favorite food, but I also want to try to eat in moderation. But back when I was a teenager, I ascribed to one day be able to eat an entire pizza in one day, and I did. And after I finished that challenge, I laid down on the bed, I grasped my stomach, and I said, never again. That was miserable. I don't even know how I did it. And I, true to my word, never did it again. Recently experienced something like, okay, family gave me chocolate. Maca. Okay. Okay. I don't know offhand what maca tastes like, but if that's a type of coffee, I'm hit or miss when it comes to coffee. Like, I'm not a coffee drinker when it comes to waking up in the morning. Usually, the only thing that wakes me up in the morning is thinking about what's to come. So, for example, on a Sunday, I'll think about teaching my class and how excited I am for the kids that I teach to learn something new. On Mondays and Tuesdays, I think about going to the gym, and I always treat myself to a special drink after I finish my workout as my motivation to keep working out. And then every other day, I'm excited for my nap. And then if I have like an outing with a friend, that also really helps. Am I thinking of mocha? Not at the moment, but I'm open to suggestions because I did get some Starbucks gift cards for Christmas, and I'm not really much of a Starbucks person. So if you think there's something at Starbucks that I'd really like, I'm open to suggestions because there is a Starbucks inside the local bushes near my house, and that is like 10 minutes away by foot. So I could easily like get exercise while going to that Starbucks. Because matcha is that green thing oh, okay. Are matcha and mocha different? Because it seems like, no, that's not my eyesight. It looks like you put an A in one and an O in another. So would you care to explain the difference, or is it just a typo? Oh, heck yeah, Jevil. Just, I know I keep having to repeat myself, so I apologize, but with regards to Danganronpa 2, don't say anything past the first murder in the original game, because I don't want people to... I know that there's quite a lot of people that haven't played the Danganronpa games, and for them, Danganronpa 2x2 is going to be a brand new game. So if there are those people in this chat that haven't played Danganronpa 2, I don't want them to know who the first victim is or the first murderer. So, like, you can talk about everything leading up to that if you want to, but, like, try not to mention anything else for their sake. It's not a typo. Oh, okay. That's cool. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look that up too. Mocha and matcha. That's cool. Well, thank you for enlightening my horizons. Well, and by the way, if there's anyone here who doesn't know, which I have no way of keeping track because YouTube is weird, this water is my life energy. So once it runs out, I run out. So that can give you a little bit of an unofficial timer for how long the stream will be. How many people are actually Danganronpa fans in this chat? I don't know, Jovel. You're the only one that I can think of. I have a friend. She wants to be anonymous, but I have a friend that follows this channel that really likes Danganronpa. So if she was here, you'd probably have a blast. But she already told me she's not going to be able to be here. A green paste. Okay. Interesting. I'm normally the type of person that when I eat desserts, I tend to eat them plain. I don't know why. Like, when I got a fruit parfait at Rosie's the other day, I told them not to put whipped cream on it. Which, that was just me guessing, because I just assumed that they'd put whipped cream on it, but the waitress said, noted, no whipped cream. So that made me think, oh, that's the norm here? That's interesting. So I guess there are people out there that like whipped cream on their fruit parfaits. But that was a great experience. I went to Rosie's with two friends of mine, and I knew them both from the gym, and it was great to catch up outside of the gym. And I got a yogurt parfait, some fries, and 2 poppies, which for those of you that don't know, those are really healthy probiotic sodas. I like whipped cream, but only the kind that, how do I word this? There's a special type of whipped cream that my mom makes that's made out of tofu. I really like that. And then there are these kinds that you spray on things that sometimes I like, but I'm selective about what I put it on. So I'm not really sure how to answer that. Kind of had your mindset on something else, like the next direct. I don't know, Jevel. I'm of the mind that if there's another Smash game, it's probably going to have a lot of compromises, because we saw that with Mario Kart World, how they just had no clue where they wanted to take the series after 8 Deluxe. And the stuff that they added to World felt very much like an afterthought. So I'm personally, obviously I could be wrong, but I personally feel relatively certain that if there's another Smash Brothers game, which I personally think there probably won't be, and if there is, it probably won't be done by Sakurai, that it's gonna try to go in a new direction and then epically fail, because they're like, well, Ultimate was the pinnacle of the series, so what else are we supposed to do? I feel like I've had this conversation a lot with people. It's just like, why do you want there to be more Smash Brothers? Like, Ultimate was called Ultimate for a reason. It was, the best, the finale. And as someone who voted for Banjo and Kazooie in the Smash ballot, maybe I'm a bit biased, but I personally can't think of a single other character that I'd like to see in Smash more than Banjo and Kazooie. Actually, as far as characters that got into Smash Ultimate that I really wanted since before Ultimate came out, first let me answer your question. What post are you talking about, Jevel, where Sakurai said he wouldn't do DLC? If it's not that, then yeah, go ahead and tell me. A lot of people share that because Smash Ultimate has so yeah. That's exactly what Sakurai said, Karanya. He said that he deliberately made Ultimate in such a way that if anyone were to try to follow it up, they'd have a heck of a time trying to outdo it. Because imagine getting the rights for characters like Sora and Cloud and Dragon Quest Hero all over again. That would probably be a nightmare. And that's why I think it'll be compromised. Is because the whole point of Ultimate was everyone is here, plus all these other out of nowhere characters. And trying to like negotiate that again and then trying to put more characters in it because you can bet 99% of the fans will say if there aren't new characters in it, then you guys are idiots. But I personally, oh yeah, absolutely. From what I heard, Sakurai flat out said they almost weren't able to do the "everyone is here" thing. Makes me think that it was Square Enix that gave them the trouble because seems like any character that was owned by Square seemed to get the worst treatment, from what I could tell. But as far as characters that I was happy to see since before Ultimate came out, I really liked Sephiroth's inclusion. I wish they would have done more with him, but I had a vague idea of who Sephiroth was, and I really wanted to play Final Fantasy VII ever since the remake came out, which remake is coming to Switch 2 this month, so super excited for that. Banjo and Kazooie, obviously, I voted for them. Byleth, I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I was stoked to get Three Houses stuff in Smash. Crom was another big one for me because I love Fire Emblem Awakening and I love Matt Mercer. Joker, um, once I realized that he was from Persona 5, that's when I started getting really excited because I was like, yay, we get Persona 5 stuff in a Nintendo game. You don't see that very often. Uh, K. Rool, I wasn't the biggest Donkey Kong fan, but I was like, oh, I can tell that he was popular in the Smash ballot, so that's cool. Pyra and Mythra, that was pretty cool too, because they brought a ton of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 music over, and I'm not the biggest fan of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but I cannot deny that game. That game has spectacular music. A post reset with other game developers to be created. Oh wow. Oh wow, that is quite the ensemble. Yeah, Jovel, if you wanna say what website that's on, I'll go and look at it later. That's right. That's right, Karnya. Yeah. Persona 5 Royal came onto the Switch in 2022. Joker got into Smash in 2019. I don't think it was the first time we had Persona content on the Switch per se, because we had Persona Q. Then there was Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which was a Fire Emblem / Persona crossover. It's marketed as Shin Megami Tensei, but it is very much Persona. Shin Megami Tensei is the parent series that Persona was an offshoot of. So technically, you could say that like some of the mascot characters were from Shin Megami Tensei, but the actual like gameplay was like 80% Persona and 20% Fire Emblem. And I played both versions of it, and I thought it was great. I just wish they had an English dub because I think it's stupid when you get these legendary Fire Emblem characters that have such amazing voice actors as Matt Mercer, and they can't get him to speak in English. I just think Matt Mercer probably would have loved to be back, but at least they fixed their mistake when they put Itsuki in Fire Emblem Heroes, because then they did bring back Matt Mercer to play a Performacrom, which I thought was great. But yeah, the reason why Joker was able to get into Smash, even though Persona 5 wasn't on the Switch, was that we had other Persona stuff on Nintendo systems in the past. And that seemed to be the general rule. As long as at least one game was on a Nintendo system with that character in it, they were allowed. And as far as I can tell, I don't think they've ever broken that rule. It was on Twitter. Okay. Well, I don't have Twitter anymore, so I guess I'm not going to see it. But, ooh, I'm tired. This is only half full. But yeah, now that I actually have played Persona 5 Royal, I beat it too. I got the true ending. I can say that Joker's moveset was phenomenal. And I especially loved how Sakurai incorporated elements from other Persona games besides just 5. Like, when you change the music on the Memento stage, it changes the color of the entire environment because Persona games typically have like a color that they associate with it. So, like, there's a lot of blue in Persona 3, a lot of yellow in 4, and a lot of red in 5. And that's how long did it take me to get the true ending of Persona 5 Royal? Oh boy, probably about 300 hours. Because I got the bad ending first, because I was an idiot when I first played it. And so once I learned what I did wrong, and then consulted a friend, because I just really wanted to get the true ending, I didn't want her to I didn't want her to literally walk me through it. I just wanted her to tell me like the basic conditions for unlocking it. Like I said, are there people that I have to talk to get a certain social rank? And she said yes. And so she told me who I needed to talk to, but that's about it. Apart from that, I figured it all out on my own. So I got the bad ending. And then I realized that I got the bad ending, but I forgot to save. So I played through the entire game again, got to the bad ending, and then proceeded to play the rest of Persona 5, which took, I think, another 50 hours. And then there was another 100 hours to get the true ending that Royal added. So, all in all, roughly about 300 hours. All because I could not figure out the context clues behind what was being said. And I won't spoil it for you, but I think the average person would probably be way smarter than me when they got to that scene and probably would have saved ahead of time. And I was just an idiot because, again, Persona games, for some bizarre reason, just do not like having autosaves in their games. So you have to like manually save all the time. It's why I gave up when I tried replaying Tokyo Mirage Sessions the other day because I just said, if you're going to send me all the way back an entire dungeon, no thanks. I do highly recommend Tokyo Mirage Sessions, though, either on the Switch or the Wii U. I think the Switch version is definitely the definitive version because it like practically it practically makes the loading screens non-existent, and it has like a second. It has a new dungeon where you can get like new abilities and new costumes, including one of Joker, one of like the Garreg Monastery uniform. There's like a new song if you like those kinds of J-pop things. And they have this new maneuver called a quick session, where like when you're chaining together your combos, it goes a lot faster. Maybe next Smash Bros. That's a good title. Yeah. Yeah. I like that title. Kind of reminds me of Hogwarts Legacy, which is a game that I still really, really like. I don't think I'll ever replay it anytime soon because, man, that game could be tough. But I have beaten Hogwarts Legacy twice. I beat it once on Switch 1 with the abysmal loading screens and everything, and the second time I got the Switch 2 version. Almost gave up on it, which is why I reviewed it late. But what pushed me was that I read a review from, I think it was IGN, and the reviewer said that he just rebooted the game, and that's what got rid of all the glitches. So I said, well, if that's what it takes, then I'll try it again. And yeah, it was a very clumsy way to play, but I do think that for a game that they're charging full price for, if you don't have the original, that those kinds of glitches are unacceptable. Saw that title. Oh, okay. Well, hey, that fan has good taste. So, as far as the bare minimum that I would expect of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, if people are just like, oh, Paul, you just cannot deny there's going to be another Smash Bros. Game. It's inevitable. I personally think that they'll probably just make like a Smash Ultimate Switch 2 edition and call it a day. I mean, that's the route Nintendo seems to have been going lately. it seems like if Sakurai doesn't directly work on a game, they will try to make the cheapest content possible. Because you look at like Mario Party Jamboree Switch 2 edition, I didn't even bother renting it because I heard really bad things about it. Well, what happened was I saw the trailer and I said, oh, this just looks stupid. And so I decided right then and there I wasn't going to review it. So then I said, well, let me look at what other people are saying about it. And apparently they thought it was even stupider than I thought it was. So I was like, oh, good. Glad to know my intuition was correct. Kirby and the Forgotten Lands Switch 2 edition was all right. I'm not the biggest Kirby fan in the world, but yeah, it was decent returning to that universe. The final battle was an experience. That was fun, but it was definitely something that I was like, yeah, 12 new levels, charging $20 for it. I think that's a bit ludicrous. Switch 2 editions of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom were phenomenal. 10 out of 10 experiences. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of games that rely on gimmicks. So, like, when I heard that Deltarune had a secret room that used mouse mode in the microphone, I just said, nope, it's not for me. So I ended up finding the secret room in the Switch 1 version of Deltarune, and then I just gave up for the Switch 2 because I said, no, I'm over that. The Wii tried to have all those gimmicky style controls. I want traditional controls going forward. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Sakurai is quite the legendary guy. Hope for a Nintendo Direct? What I want in a Nintendo Direct? Ace Attorney. That's the biggest thing for me, is I just really want a new Ace Attorney. We've gotten so many Ace Attorney ports and collections on the Switch, which now means that every Ace Attorney game is on the Switch except for one, and that's Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. I highly doubt we'll see that game anytime soon because New World of Steam is scheduled for this year, but I'm never going to stop wishing. We never thought Marvel vs. Capcom 2 would ever come back, and it did. So who knows? Yeah, he is kind of a dream come true. I would also really like to see release dates for games that I'm excited for, like Danganronpa 2. I'd love to know when that'll come out. As far as like Nintendo published stuff, what would I like to see? Well, I would say a new Fire Emblem, but we already have that coming. That's a good question. Maybe a new Zelda game that's like the art style of that Wii U tech demo that showed off what Zelda could look like on the system and then it never happened. That would be cool if like they would just make a game out of that, kind of like what they did with Shantae Advance. Yeah, Ace Attorney and a Zelda game that has the graphics of that Wii U tech demo would be my biggest wants. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but those are the big things that just like, oh, Zero Escape 4. I don't think it's ever going to happen. Personally, I think Uchikoshi just wants to move on from that series. But he did say that he doesn't consider it impossible. So I don't know what he means by that. It's been 10 years since Zero Time Dilemma. Pretty sure he's done with the series. But if he makes another one, I'm not going to be complaining. Because Zero Escape is my favorite video game franchise. And I will defend Zero Time Dilemma if it's the last thing I do. I just won't do it here because I know I have a friend of mine who is playing through Zero Escape right now, and she's only at 999. And she has asked me not to spoil things except like just a little tiny bit of guidance if the game is confusing. So I just told her I'd let her go in completely blind to the story. And just in case she watches this, I'm going to keep my promise, even to you guys. But if you ever want me to make a video where I defend Zero Time Dilemma, let me know and I'll absolutely do it. Because I love that game so much. And all the people that hate it are probably people that only played it once and then put it down in disgust. Whereas I played it 16, maybe even more than that, think I played it like 20 times. And so once you discover like the perfect way to play it, because even she knows that like 999 you have like different choices that can like affect the path you go through the game. I figured out the perfect way to get through that game. And when you play the game in that order, whew, it's a narrative I've never seen before. Professor Layton, actually, the creators of Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright have said that they wouldn't mind if fans called it canon. Personally, I feel like it's the type of game that tries its best to be standalone, but there's just enough hints if you're a big fan of either series where you could hypothetically piece together when it takes place. I personally am of the opinion that it takes place between the first two Ace Attorney games, and I can't say why because that's a spoiler. But let's just say Phoenix makes an offhand reference to something that happened in Justice for All as though it didn't happen yet. And I just said, maybe that's just a throwaway line. But if Phoenix is thinking that when he shouldn't be thinking that, then it must come before Justice for All. Well, obviously, it doesn't come after Trials and Tribulations because, again, if you know the ending to that game, then that kind of makes the entire thing not able to be possible. And I know I'm speaking cryptically, but I'm doing that on purpose because you guys need to experience it if you have a way. Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright is the kind of game that got me to get a 3DS in the first place. Boy, did I wait way too long for that game to come out. But when it did, I biked all the way to GameStop and I kept the receipt so that I'd be able to remember the exact day that I got it on day one. And there were times where it did such a good job of recapturing the magic of Ace Attorney that I forgot that it was a crossover. And that's like the best kind of crossover. Okay, yeah. You know, I can respect that. Yeah, my personal favorite, my personal order for the Zero Escape games would be that I'd probably say 999 is the worst, then Virtue's Last Reward, and then Zero Time Dilemma. Because I think, and I'm not going to get into spoilers here, but I think Virtue's Last Reward has the more involved plot twist. And I think it's probably easier to follow along than it is to follow along with Zero Time Dilemma. But on the other hand, Zero Time Dilemma kind of perfects Virtue's Last Reward because the director even flat out said it was a part one that was made with a part two in mind, and he almost canceled part two because the series wasn't doing good in sales. So with that in mind, it's hard to go back to Virtue's Last Reward without the added context that Zero Time Dilemma gives it. Although I will admit, one thing I like much better about Virtue's Last Reward is that it has an easy mode in the puzzle rooms, whereas Zero Time Dilemma does not. And there's this one puzzle that involves a cube, and I'm not going to say any more, but I think that was the only puzzle that I had to look up because I had no clue what I was doing, and the characters didn't give you any hints. Yeah. But I will say I'm not much of a philosophical guy, but Zero Escape is one of those few series where they know how to present it in such a way that's like, okay, I can kind of see what you're getting at. That's an interesting like way of wording it. All right, guys, I'm almost out of water, so just to make sure you all feel like you're included, I want to hear everyone else's hopes for a Nintendo Direct. I don't want to be the only one answering the question. What do you guys want in a Nintendo Direct? And if you're not a Nintendo person, feel free to say a PlayStation Presents or Xbox Exhibits or whatever Xbox's version is. New Wario Land. Oh, you know what? I would like that too. Not a huge fan of the classic Wario Land games, but I heard Shake It was pretty good. And I hope it's better than Wario World, because I tried playing that game when it came to the Switch 2, because the Switch 2 can play GameCube games. Oh, it was terrible. The only good thing I can say about Wario World was Charles Martinet's voice acting was legendary, but that's about it. Everything else about that game was abysmal. The controls were terrible, and falling into a pit was like the most annoying falling into a pit scene I've ever seen in a video game. Yes, I did try Wario Land 4. Didn't like that one either, unfortunately. I'm the type of guy that has very little tolerance for games that frustrate me. Like, I'm not really the type of guy that likes to push through on something if for the majority of my run I'm feeling like I'm getting a headache and the level design feels unfair. And there was something about Wario Land 4 where I just said, I don't get it. This is really annoying. So I ended up giving up after, I think it was like level 2. New 2D Kirby game. You know, that might not be too bad. I don't know if it'll ever beat Kirby Air Riders, because that was done by Masahiro Sakurai himself, but I'd probably rent it, but we'll see if it ends up on my best games video. Yeah. Yeah, you do. If you fall into a pit in Wario World, there are these boxes that you have to break, but it's random which box contains the spring that lets you get out of the pit. All the other ones contain bombs. And then there's also poisonous water that you have to avoid. And then there are all these ghosts that try to grab you. And you have to do that every single time you fall into a pit. And you might be thinking, well, why not just use rewind? Well, the GameCube Online doesn't have rewind. It just has save points. So even if we were to look past that and like get out of the pits by just spamming save states, the puzzle that caused me to give up on the game was when there was a gate and there was this lever where you had to spin an enemy around to get the gate to open. But here's the problem. There were enemies on the ledge next to the lever that prevented me from being able to spin. So what I thought I had to do was just defeat the enemies, then walk over to the other side of the screen, grab a big enemy, and come back. But then the enemies respawned. So then I had to figure out, okay, now I need to defeat these enemies without getting rid of the big enemy. And so that took me several tries. And then once I finally did figure out how to defeat the enemies, then you have to rotate the control stick in just the right direction, because the arrows point a certain way, to spin the enemy so that you can open the gate. But the controls in that game are so loose that I ended up falling into the pit, which caused the enemies to respawn once I got out of the pit. And I just said, I'm not going to break my controller over this, literally, because excessive joystick spinning is really not good for Switch controllers. So for the sake of my system's longevity, I said Wario World is just not for me. Gunstar Heroes. I heard that was a good one. I haven't played it yet, but if it's not too hard, I might give it a try if they make another one. DK's design choice in Smash, that would be something. I personally think that they probably could have just kept the Rareware design and still made Donkey Kong more expressive. Because if you look at the introduction of Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo, like, he was pretty expressive in that. Like, his eyes bulged out of his sockets, even on the Super Nintendo. Donkey Kong 64, again, for its time, that was a very expressive game. Sure, Donkey Kong himself didn't change facial expressions much, but I'd like to chalk it up to just bad technology. But you can't tell me that that old design couldn't have made Donkey Kong like do all the goofy faces that he could have done in DK Bonanza. Still love Bonanza, don't get me wrong, but I don't like Nintendo's reasoning for why they redesigned him. Good redesign, but terrible reasoning. A sequel on the GBA? A sequel to Wario World? On the GBA? Oh, you mean Gunstar Superheroes. Yes, I have heard about that, because I used to have a subscription to Nintendo Power, and they did talk about that quite a lot. Yeah, I haven't heard much from Treasure recently. I heard they made Wario World. That explains a lot. Donkey Kong Oh, Chevel. I'm not going to read that out loud. You guys can laugh if you want to, but not me. Okay. All right, guys. My water's almost out. I have this much left, so I think I might call it here. But I appreciate you guys cheering me up. I really needed to be able to just have some lighthearted fun. And I just hope that I hope you guys will be I hope you guys are happy with the announcement that I made that I plan on sticking around this channel for the rest of my life. And I also hope that you will see me based on the stuff that I really worked hard on as opposed to the stuff that everyone else says is good. I'm speaking cryptically on purpose because I don't want to get into a dispute. But if you know, you know. And I'm grateful for the people that are true fans of mine. All right. So you all have a great rest of your day. And stay tuned for that Persona 5 DLC review, assuming you're a fan of Fitness Boxing 3. If you're not sure about Fitness Boxing 3 in and of itself, I do have a review of it. So you can always check that out first. And you'll have a great... Yes, you too, Karinya. All right, guys. You all have a great rest of your day. And remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.